and 1, and go.
Hi there again, this is Lou and John. Welcome back. If you're new, welcome to the site. These are our videos, heart to heart. We don't script them, we're in our kitchen drinking coffee. And we want this to be just us talking and chatting to you. We want it to be very real. We want it to come from our heart and not some professional kind of script that we have somewhere as therapists. This is us talking to you. And the subject today is handling disappointment.
Disappointment.
Okay. First of all, just to say, if you're here and you're listening to this, you have certainly started on the journey of handling disappointment because you're here, you're trying to find out what's going on and get some help for the issues that you're facing. So you are beginning to handle disappointment. So that's the good news to start off with. But having lived this for a really quite a long time, I think this will happen, I suppose, when people reach the site, that they will come on and their kind of faith in the fact that there can be a change will grow. Even the fact that we're here and we've said, we've been through this, we want to help you. So that's kind of what happens, I think, when you live with a drinker. You're always sweeping the horizon for the one bit of information that you can apply to change your situation, which is really understandable. But actually, the whole dealing with the drink issue, particularly if you're here and you've got a loved one, I'd love to say that from here on in, this is going to be your journey, but that is really unrealistic, actually. Your journey is going to be a series of dips and troughs. I mean, John, okay, you've got sober. Tell us about the change. What was that like? Was that something that happened quickly? Did it happen over a period of time?
No. Change is something that very seldom happens quickly. There's very seldom the sort of Damascus Road conversion and everything. It happens, but it's rare. Very, very rare. Change usually is a lot of sort of fits and starts and false starts and starting and going backwards. And I mean, let's take it out of the alcohol field and just talk about change. Yourselves, have you ever been in a diet? Have you ever decided to start exercise? Have you ever bought a gym membership? Have you ever, I just think about the change there.
Yeah.
Have you ever been a smoker and decided to stop smoking? The number of times that we try, and sometimes one figure that's bandied about is it takes 7 attempts to try and change. How many gym memberships are bought in January and never used in February? How many diets? Books,
now that's not to cause despair. That's for you to understand.
It's to understand the process.
Human nature, really. Yeah.
Now, we used to say that people changed or they didn't change, and that was it. It was black or it was white. And then unfortunately, it doesn't really help when you see it that way.
No.
And then there's a couple of psychologists in the States, but it was really smoking that they were looking at. But it applies to almost every type of change, and they said there were stages of change. And the first stage was pre-contemplators, as they called it. In other words, they're in denial. We don't need change.
Which is probably where your drinker is at.
Yes. The second one was contemplators. I'm thinking about it. Now, think of a behaviour yourself, whether it's a diet, whether it's an exercise or something, and you think, I think maybe I should do something about this, and then there are the deciders.
If you've got a binge drinker, that bit that he's just talked about is the bit you get when they get sober. If they love you and the family, that's often pre-contemplation, and they're thinking that this can't go on, and
So the next bit is the decision. They made the decision. Now, that may be on the January the 1st every year. You make your New Year resolution. You've decided you're going to do something, and then. So they're the preparers, and then there's the actual actioners. But also built into this, there are the relapsers as well. So very often it's a false start. Now you asked me, did I just change? No, I didn't. It took me 2 years. I went into Alcoholics Anonymous. I went out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to my doctor. I went, stopped going to my doctor. He gave me pills, and on it went. And that was the story of my change. It was the same when I stopped smoking. I stopped many times and started again many times. Relapse. Eventually, when I did stop, then that was me. As I say, it's 39 years since I last had a drink. It's about 20 odd years since I've last had a cigarette. Funny enough, the cigarettes came afterwards. But we have to. Okay, so if you're only looking at the full Buddha, the complete change, then you are going to be disappointed.
Now, I can almost hear people saying, "Oh yes, but you don't understand what I'm going through right now. The chaos that drink is causing to your family, to my family."
Yes, of course we do.
Yes, we do understand.
We do, very much so.
And that's not to minimise what you've just thought and said. Of course, it is really, really difficult, which is why you'll find, again, if you're fairly new to the site, we focus on you first of all, because we know that this is going to take some time to get the desired effect, and that's that this behaviour stops, so that everything stops.
Yeah.
So we do concentrate on you, and we do help you to have a life whilst all of this is happening. Because I know that, because I spent years and years and years, and my sole aim was to find the one thing, that one conversation, the one plea, the one whatever that get my husband to stop drinking. And everything was focused on that, and I didn't have a life. I learned it in the end.
Yes.
And that's what we share. Please listen to what we say, because we've been through agony to get to the point that we understand that it works. So please do it, because I've not done it, and it was very painful. So when you deal with disappointment, I think be real. This is a series of peaks and troughs, and when you're going down the trough, we're not saying that it's going to be easy. But if you do remember that change takes time, if you say to yourself, gosh, it feels really tough right now, but change takes time. The other thing I would say, and I use this in my therapy, not just in Bottled Up, really, if you're applying the right things, the difference between a vicious circle and a descending spiral is that the descending spiral gradually comes to an end. But when you first start, the scenery looks exactly the same. So you think you're on the same old circular roundabout, of drinking and recrimination and everything else. But if you start putting in things that change, then you are beginning to come to an end. So again, try not to look too much on the surface things. Try and understand. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in Threats and Promises. So,
a couple of things.
Yes,
I would say is that what Lou was saying about the descending spiral thing. Yes, the people who talked about the stages of change, it was originally a wheel, and then they decided it should be a spiral.
Right. Okay.
The reason for that is that in each relapse you learn something new.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
You do learn something new. You learn, that didn't work, therefore I need to try something else. And on and on and on it goes. That's part of it. The second thing is, when you look at change generally doesn't come, as Lou said, it comes to and sometimes we have to look and say, well, where is the change? And I've talked about this many times in other videos, that if you measure change in the athletes, it's if they run around a park, used to do the 440. It's a 400 meters now, and it's absolutely exhausting running around, because you're running at full pelt, and at the end of it you're knackered. You're really out of breath. If you're a trained athlete and you run around, you're still out of breath. The difference the coaches look for is how quickly they come back to normal. So you have to look for change sometimes, and sometimes you have to find small things, and sometimes it doesn't look like it. I used to talk about climbing a mountain in Scotland, and this particular mountain, a beautiful mountain, but you come up through this wood, and it's really, really steep, and it doesn't feel as if you're getting anywhere, and then all of a sudden you come out the trees and you look back and you just see this view. But it doesn't seem as if you're getting anywhere at all. So sometimes you have to look for the little things, that's the signs along the way of change, you know. And if somebody is actually starting to actually try and do something and then relapses, at least there was the trying, you know. Obviously you're disappointed, yes, but you know, just to see it as part of the change process.
Yeah.
Not, you know, it's not an abandonment of the change process, it's part of it.
Yeah, that's really important. And, you know, if you're having a disappointed time, I mean, again, just to get back to where you're at and what you feel, I mean, the heartache and the tears that were particularly acute when I felt we'd kind of got somewhere. I mean, I was with a binge drinker, and, you know, there were times when I felt there was real change, maybe 3 or 4 months, you know, when you, and then there's a relapse. Those times are really, really hard. But again, just listen to a video like this and just remember, this is the scenery of the journey that you're walking. Sometimes the dealing with the disappointment is actually to walk out the situation altogether. I think we intend in this particular series of videos that we're going to record to do one, you know, again, should I stay or should I go? That's kind of, we're thinking we'd be good to do that. And we'll talk about dealing with the disappointment in a final way with that, because that's another of these questions. Is my husband got a drink problem? Should I stay or should I go? So I think we'll tackle that as well. So if you're dealing with disappointment right now, we know how you feel. You hang on in there. Because change, I mean, again, I think I said this in another video recently, but John is the archetypal, hopeful journey of change, because he was extremely bad, and not only did he come through, but he became a trainer of people that help people with drink problems, you know. So he is a living example of the fact that things can be incredibly bad, and actually you can turn your life around. So John is an example of hope, really, and change, you know. So
and I am not alone by anyone.
No,
there was a big study done, and it was back in the 80s, and it was done in America, and it looked at lots of people who came through treatment and what happened to them, and they found that they fell into a third, and a third. A third of the people were just exactly the same. Nothing had changed. A third of the people were still drinking, but they had improved. They were drinking less, or there were less consequences. And a third of the people were abstinent. So it happens. It happens. You know, people change.
Yeah.
You know? So we have to remember that the sort of default position is people do change. Sometimes it takes time.
Yeah. So you're probably, again, if you're fairly new to the site, you'll be on a hope. You'll be on a hope curve. You'll be going up to hope, which is great. There's a lot to be hopeful about, but there are going to be some dives, and we want you to know that's really part of the course. Nobody has got the pixie dust. We've had some wonderful stories from people where their situations have transformed, or if not, they have been transformed. So, you know, keep finding out the program and you know, applying what you can. But, you know, you will get these times when you think, oh, I thought this was it, and I'm disappointed. They are part of the course. They are very normal in this journey. If you're feeling that right now, we know how you feel. But that's why we're here, to support you and cheer you along the way.
If you're wondering about a room and falling over the furniture all the time, you know, and there are two things can happen. One is you can sort of move the furniture. The other one is you can put on the light.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we can't move the furniture, and sometimes we just need to put on the light. You know, so
good. I think that's a good analogy to finish.
Yeah.
We like to try keep these 15 minutes or less. So I think we respectably, if we finish right now, goodbye. It's lovely. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye bye.